there is a reason. First of all, I need to at least share a little story. Yesterday, I shared this with somebody at the craft show, and I just had to add this in here because, I am new at this. You may not have any reason to have any faith in me for what message I might bring, and I hope that I do a service to that, and that God uses me as a vessel. But I have to share with you the anxiety that I had leading up to this was very quickly sort of just sent away because of one of my friends that's here in the audience, Cicely, back there. She said to me, hey, we met for a share group, and she said, hey, just so you know, Sam's Club is having a deal on upgrading phones, and that's not the upgrade. It was not the reason why my anxiety was released, but because on a Saturday morning for an educator who gets up at dark 100 every day, I do not tend to get up early in the morning, but because she told me you should probably go there early because the line is long and she wasn't coming, I was up early, and as I pulled, no joke, as I pulled into Sam's Club and into my parking lot, on K-Love, if you listen to K-Love, one of the things that they do is a scripture of the day. And the scripture of yesterday was 1 Timothy chapter 4, verse 12. And I had chosen that a while ago, and I was like, whoa, thank you, God. Okay, that's a good thing to share with the kids, okay? And I continue it into my parking spot, and you may not be surprised with what song, honest to God, what song followed right after that. And it was Nobody. And I sat there, and as Linda said, I had guidebooks for like 5 minutes. That's why I probably had to wait longer in line. But that was something that was really kind of special for me. And then I wanted to share with you why I chose Nobody. And I think it'll be apparent in the message. But I don't just tend to choose a contemporary song with people that really appreciate the hymnal songs and just say, hey, let's play a loud song because that's what the new thing is. So I researched Nobody, and it is by Casting Crowns, and they have 2 songs in there. I think we're going to do the other song. They're kind of bookends to each other. And what the story is based on is, the picture up there is John the Baptist in the waters, and they thought of John the Baptist when the crowd was saying, who are you? Who are you? This was his opportunity. This was John the Baptist's opportunity to say, look at me. Look at who I am. He could have even lied and said, I am the Messiah. But he didn't. What he said instead is, I am a voice in the woods, whispering, essentially, through God's word. Prepare for the Messiah, the true Messiah. He knew that he was not the point, but he was to point to the point. Yeah. And so that's why I chose this song to go along with this message. And I wanted to sort of recap a little bit about the last month or so here at Fairgreen. So those of you who weren't here, maybe you don't feel like you've missed out on some things. I want to sort of share with some of the pastors and the messages that we have gotten. Somewhere in October, Alex McLean told us that faith the size of a mustard seed could move mountains, if you recall that. Okay, and then Andy Hill explained God's love for us. It was pretty amazing because his message moved him. I don't know if you guys noticed, but his own message moved him to tears. And I think that was based on truly knowing God's love for not only him, but also for his family. And after that, Dr. White, the big Dr. White, implored us to hang in there during the tough months, and the tough times, and the tough seasons. And then Tom Hughes asked us to check our Beatitudes at the door. And then Alex again came in to share the story of Zacchaeus. He shared more than that, but that was pretty important in this message, that he was a lost sheep, and he was seeking a shepherd, and he made sure that we understood that the shepherd was also seeking Zacchaeus. And these have been some pretty amazing messages from some pretty amazing pastors. And after hearing these lessons, and I was preparing for today, I decided It was time to give this church congregation and those that came to hear this message today to give you a challenge. And you may think, as this congregation, what is this nobody talking about? Has she not heard the challenges that this congregation is going through and that our world is going through? Do we need yet another challenge? And I say to that, yes. Indeed, I have heard the challenges that not only this congregation and this church is going through. And I've seen how not only have we faced those challenges, but we faced them head on. And I hear about stories in the community where people are facing the challenges and they're facing it head on. So I challenge us as a group that we need to take on yet another challenge. And as we know, Fairgreen is in a transitional time, and I think the world is also in a transitional time. And for me, in transitional times, I have to check on my comfort zone. And so I look back at the first comfort zone. When God gave us our first comfort zone, that was back in the garden. And he said to Adam and Eve, this is your comfort zone. This beautiful garden, except for the tree of knowledge of evil and good and evil. And that's in Genesis 2:15 through 17. And so God set Adam and Eve up with a pretty sweet comfort zone. Paradise minus one tree. Not bad. And I can only imagine the freedom and the beauty that they had within this paradise. And what did Adam and Eve do with it? They messed it up. They messed it up. Just in the very next chapter of Genesis. Now we know that God's time is God's time. We have no comprehension of God's time. But I'm pretty sure that from one chapter to the next chapter wasn't all that long. God's time is our time. And they messed it up in the very next chapter. And we could debate who was responsible. Was it Adam or was it Eve? Who was responsible? And really, does it matter? Because I think if we're honest, we may say, hey, if it was me back in the garden, really, we would have just found a different way to mess it up. We would have made some other mistake. God gave us our free will, and we make choices because he wants us to follow him. And yes, we are living in a fallen world because of the choices that Adam and Eve made in that first fall. And we are now responsible for defining our own comfort zones. Unfortunately, what I noticed is we're not very good at that. We're not very good at that either. We decide what we are comfortable with and we stay there. And we don't like to be challenged. But I guess what I'm asking is this. Can we change our comfort zone? Can we expand our comfort zone? Because if we just get out of our comfort zone, when that time is over, whatever that is that we got out of our comfort zone for, when that's gone, we may be very easily swayed to go back into our little comfort zone and stay there again until maybe we decide to make another choice to change it. So what I ask is, can we expand our comfort zone? And thankfully, our God, my God, your God, our God is a God of not only second chances, but second chances, and many, many chances after that. And so even though Adam and Eve made the choice that they did and shrunk that comfort zone down, he is giving not only Adam and Eve another chance, but throughout the Bible you see stories of God giving people chances to expand their comfort zone. Ordinary people called to do extraordinary things. Some of them we talked about in the song. And I want to look at a couple of those examples of God calling ordinary people to do extraordinary things. Moses, he had stage fright, and yet he led the people, right? Noah, this was interesting. I looked this up in Genesis 10, chapter 6, verse 10. He's 600 years old, 2 months and 17 days. interesting that they put that time frame on there. But at 600 plus years of age, he set sail on an ark that he built on God's calling. Esther, the book of Esther, saves the Jewish race at that time. Mary in Luke chapter 1, I think she does something pretty extraordinary. An ordinary girl bearing Jesus, the Lord of our world. Rahab in Joshua chapter 3. David, the story that I told from the kids that they helped me reenact along with Mike. Gideon in Judges, he had questions, right? He had questions. He wanted to do something by faith. But he was the least of the least of the least. And he needed proof, which many of us do. I needed the proof when I pulled into Sam's Club, and I got it. And so did Gideon. Right? The carpet was wet, that was dry, that was wet, whatever he needed, he got that reassurance. And then there are the disciples. And this may be one of the biggest group of ragtag, ordinary folks that Jesus handpicked to do some extraordinary things. Could you imagine, in the PNC, as I was driving in today, my heart grew a little bit bigger for the PNC. Could you imagine what Jesus was thinking when he read through the resumes of the potential candidates for disciples? I can imagine on the resume, it says, please list the characteristics or skills that qualify you for the position. Explosive temper, intolerant heart, contentment with being second class, traitor, embezzler, thief, intensely opinionated and stubborn, pessimistic, overly concrete, impulsive, doubting of authority, defiant and resistant to leadership, and can speak out of both sides of my mouth. I really hope the PNC has a better candidates. And I can only imagine again what Jesus was thinking. Oh boy, I get to make this group of people my inner circle. They're going to do my work for me. I'm going to train these people up with these characteristics, and they are going to go out into the world and make disciples. So I've heard something about keeping your enemies close, your friends close and your enemies close. This seemed like a pretty extreme example of that. But let's take a look. Let's take a look at those. And I think I might have missed one of the pictures. Oh, I did. Okay. So I'm not sure how these are going to show up for you, but it sounds like some crazy characteristics. Let's take a look at them. Here are our disciples. John had the explosive temper, and he was a bit overambitious, which created some division among the disciples. Matthew, he was a Roman tax collector who overcharged people and kept the difference for himself. And then there's Simon, who was a tax-hating anti-Roman. They seem like a really good couple. I would like to see what they look like at table together, right? Several of the disciples were fishermen, and they were considered to be second-class citizens, although they were needed for survival. Thomas doubted almost everything about Jesus. He even had to put his finger in Jesus' wounds to believe he was risen from the dead. Peter denied Jesus 3 times when the going got tough. Oh yeah, and then there was Judas, who kissed Jesus on the cheek as an outward sign of loyalty, but was in fact selling Jesus out to the guards who arrested him. So if a bunch of ragtag second-class criminals like these could be Jesus' inner circle, then how bad could I be, or how bad could you be, that you couldn't also join in on Jesus' calling? Jesus wasn't looking for perfection back in the time when he picked the disciples, thank goodness for him. And he's not looking for perfection now. He is just looking for some nobodies, willing to do what we were sent by God to do. So I was thinking about our challenge. What should it be? I was reminded of a video that I watched several times, and some of you have heard this story. The video was of a man telling a story about an encounter of himself and a woman at a restaurant. The woman was sitting at the restaurant by herself, and then later she was joined by some family, her daughter and some family. And in the video, the man just said he was compelled throughout the entire meal, he was compelled to go and talk to this woman. He just couldn't shake that voice in his head. And at the end of the meal, he said he had to follow that voice. So he went up to the woman, and he sort of squatted down and looked her in the eye, and he said, "Ma'am, if you haven't heard it already today, I want you to hear it from me first, just how beautiful you are." And the woman looked at him and responded, "I know you." And he said, no, ma'am, we don't know each other." And she sort of interrupted him and said, "But I know your soul. You see, my husband died just a year ago, and that is exactly something he would have said to me." And the man was sort of flustered without, speechless. So he just gave the woman a hug, and he walked on his way, blessed by the woman in that short encounter as much as she was blessed by him. The name of that video, if you Google it, is Shoulder Taps. And it's not the workout, not the plank workout, that you're actually tapping your shoulders. It's probably the second one down from there. And what he basically was saying is it was a challenge, and I'm sort of piggybacking on that challenge, is he was saying, listen to the voices in your head of God inspiring you to do something. The tap on your shoulder that you cannot shake, that is telling you to go and do something for someone. It doesn't have to be huge, but this is what he wanted from his disciples. And sometimes we don't have the shepherd, whether it be this shepherd, or it is this shepherd right beside us. And sometimes, as Mike said, we get the shepherd's sidekick. Go ahead. The dog barking in the ear of the sheep to get us in line. Sometimes that's required. But whatever we have, we always have our shepherd in our heart. And all we have to do is pay attention to when God, our heavenly shepherd, is tapping us on the shoulder and speaking to us to do something. We don't have to travel to the ends of the earth and preach and teach the gospel, raise the dead back from life, or perform miracles beyond belief. But if each and every one of us would really start to listen to God and do what he is asking us to do, to be the hands and feet of Jesus, to smile and compliment one another, or to pray for each other, or to lend a helping hand in our little corner of the world, we could do our part. So here's my challenge to you and to me. It has two parts. First, listen for God's voice speaking to you to get up and do something. When you feel that tap on your shoulder, don't brush it off, but instead, check your beatitude on it and focus in on and be open to his leading. And two, have faith. Have faith to expand your comfort zone. Have faith to seek God because he is seeking you. Have faith that God has prepared you with just the right weapon for the battle. Have faith that he will untie your tongue when you need to speak. Have faith that he will send just the right people into your path at just the right time to help you in this endeavor. Have faith the size of a mustard seed, the confidence in God's love and the strength of the Holy Spirit to let your light shine bright right where you are. So the moral of the story is that everybody has a purpose. And when you hear the devil speaking to you, who do you think you are? Just respond, I'm just a nobody trying to tell everybody something about somebody who saved my soul. Won't you join me and be a nobody too?